It's day 3 of the trading week before Christmas. Good morning, good evening, wherever in the world you're watching from. It's Business Morning, coming to you live from Channels HQ right here in Lagos. Hope you've done your Christmas shopping for next week so you don't get to join the rush going into next week. But first, let's get to the stories that set your agenda now. It's cheery news for business owners who will be getting a buffer in the new year as the federal government is collaborating with the Bank of Industry to distribute 75 billion naira worth of loans to micro, small, and medium enterprises. The loans targeting women and youths will be given to small businesses nationwide from January at an interest rate of 9%. Statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Job Creation and MSMEs in the Office of the Vice President, Temitola Adekunle Johnson, says the loans are part of President Bola Tinubu's promise to support the transformation of the MSME space. And let's get a check on oil prices. Now, see, it ticked higher today after rising more than 1% in the previous session on jitters over global trade disruptions and geopolitical tensions in the Middle East following the Houthi attacks on ships in the Red Sea. Brent crude futures was up about 6 cents to 0.1% at $69.29 a barrel, while US WTI crude was at $74.11 a barrel, up 17 cents, about 0.2%. Washington Tuesday launched a task force to safeguard Red Sea commerce as attacks by Iran-backed Yemeni militants forced major shipping companies to rout, stoking fears of sustained disruptions to global trade. And to the grains market now, see Chicago soybean futures rose today, helped by U.S. export sales and rising crude oil prices and worries over production in top exporter Brazil. We see wheat and corn futures inched higher. The most active soybean contract on the Chicago Board of Trade, SV1, was up 0.5% at $13.19 a bushel. In other crops, CBOT corn CV1 rose 0.1% to $4.73 a bushel, and wheat WV1 climbed 0.2% to $6.23 for 3/4 of a bushel. And Agboa Doga, Daniel and Joseph Okechukwu, both from Graceland International School, Port Harcourt, have emerged winners of the 2023 Cowbellpedia competition, winning 5 million naira each, a trip to South Africa, and a 1-year supply of Cowbell dairy products. While Daniel in the junior category, Okechukwu emerged winner in the senior category. Over 1,000 schools participated in the competition, which is the platform to showcase innovative capacity, mathematical prowess, quick thinking, and creative problem-solving skills, among others. Take a listen.
Students, teachers, family, and friends are gathered here for the grand finale of the 2023 Cowbellpedia TV quiz show. Innovative elements such as fastest finger and chest of fortune added a thrilling dimension to the competition, testing not just the mathematical prowess, but also quick thinking capacity.
For us, Cowbellpedia this year is revamped from what it used to be, which was formerly focused on mathematics. We have taken it a couple of steps further to see what are the subject areas of interest for the larger Nigerian child.
And after running for 14 weeks and 14 episodes, the overall winners emerge.
It's Cowbellpedia!
Joseph Okechukwu and Adoga Agbo Daniel of Graceland International School, Port Harcourt, are crowned winners of the senior and junior categories, winning 5 million naira each, a trip to South Africa, and a 1-year supply of Cowbell products.
I feel very happy. We prepare 8 hours a day on our speed and accuracy, which is why we went very far inside this competition.
I felt very excited when they announced that I won the competition. Because I stressed myself, I persevered, but at the grace of God, I won.
Winners who emerged in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place for both categories received 1-year supply of Cowbell products, as well as 3 million naira, 2 million naira, and 500,000 naira, respectively.
2 million naira for Jindo pasta.
As part of the innovative additions, teachers and parents also win amazing cash prizes and 1-year supply of Cowbell products.
We are very much intentional with the content of our products, with the nutritional contents. Cowbell as a brand contains vitamin B9. And vitamin B9 supports brain development. Cowbell also contains Vitarich. It's Cowbell's proprietary blend of vitamins and minerals, which are necessary for human consumption, for you to get your daily nutrition.
Promasidor, producers of a quality range of products such as Cowbell dairy products and beverages, among many others, says it remains a symbol for excellence and a platform built to bring young, talented and great minds together.
World of diplomacy and international relations.
Now to our first conversation. Yesterday, we talked about the poultry industry in Nigeria, but today we're x-raying the baking industry as the price of a big jumbo size of bread has risen from about 1,000 naira in January to 1,400 naira in December 2023, with food inflation at about 32%, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. See the prices there. We see a sliced bread, 750 grams, moved from 700 naira in January to 1,000 naira, and the jumbo size, 1,300 grams, that moved from 1,000 naira to 1,400 naira. Big moves. You also see the cost of inputs also rising there. Let's unpack the industry now with Engineer Honora Emmanuel, President, Premium Bread Makers Association of Nigeria, joining us right here in the studio. Good morning. Great to have you, sir.
Thank you, Ladi. Good morning, Ladi, and good morning, Nigerians.
Compliments of the season. You know, next week, we're talking Christmas now. We're seeing, I don't know how much of a role bread, plays in Christmas, but everybody eats bread, definitely. And earlier this year, I believe in November, you had an outing, with your day out. And you guys you talked about a lot of things.
Yes, we did.
One of them, the cost of bread. We've seen how much it has risen, from January to now. Paint a picture. How are you guys navigating all of this?
Ladi, thank you very much. We are in a very wonderful season. Yeah. Compliments of the season to Nigerians. I want to say it's been a tough year. It's been a very tough year. But in spite of the odds, we are still holding our heads high above waters. It shows to the resilience of Nigerians. But that resilience, for how long can it keep holding? Because the economy indicators, macro and micro, are not looking benign at all. They are not looking good. For us in the premium bread making industry and bakers generally, it's a deja vu situation. Between January and now, our cost has pentapled. You understand? Maybe increased in 5-10 folds. Capacity has dropped by as much as 70%. Okay, your bread counts and flour counts has dropped. Those that were doing maybe 100, 200 bags before, they are struggling with 25, 30 bags. All of this is a accumulation of what? No money in people's pockets. Nigerians are being drawn into poverty on a daily basis because of the economic vagaries that we find ourselves in Nigeria. It's been a very, very tough one for my members. It's been a very, very tough one for our industry. It's been a very tough one, I believe, for most Nigerian industry, especially those that are in the manufacturing sector, because our own case is very peculiar. You wouldn't believe it. We're sounding like broken records. We've written to the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, on our plight as industry. We've written to the Senate President. We've written to the Speaker, House of Reps. We've even written to the National Security Advisor, because bread is a security issue. And we've written to the Minister of Trade, Industry and Investment. You understand? But up till now, I think 2-3 months ago, we've not had anything from either.
No response.
No response
even
whatsoever.
At the subnational level?
No, at the subnational. Of course, most of the things that has to do with bread is import dependent. You understand? As we are talking, was it last week Sunday, the importation of the cost of importation increased, and it's going to lead to maybe 15 to 20% poverty rate from January. Why do I say so? You clear before, in a dollarized economy as ours, you were clearing at 855. Suddenly, CBN injected it up to 955 to clear. If I want to bring in those that are bringing it for us to buy, yeast is one of our raw materials. Ascorbic acid is another. Softener is another. Margarine is another. All of these things are not produced in Nigeria. Even the wheat that you use in, the millers use in manufacturing their flour, is not produced in country. You understand? You can't grow wheat in the country, you know, despite the fact that 15 states can grow it in Nigeria. So, you know, in January, I don't know what it's going to look like.
That's for 2024.
Yeah, for 2024.
Let's look at the cost of inputs now. You did break it down for us there. If you see the cost of inputs that goes into making bread, to draw that up for me, you see that the cost of wheat there, wheat flour, that's grown about 60%.
64.54%.
About 64.
Yeah, 64.54%.
See the cost of some bread inputs there from January to December 2023. See, flavor, that's gone from 9,000 to 12,000 naira. Flour,
30,000.
30 to
43,000.
That's
perfect.
Your major input. You know.
It's our major input. It takes about 65 to 70% of our needs and our recipe, followed by sugar. Okay, and nobody is even talking about the energy cost. That is killing. Before now, we weren't even looking at diesel as one of those things that is a big hitter. But energy cost is upending our businesses. Okay, one, look at the cost of the discos. It has grown in geometric proportion. It has grown astronomical. Look at the cost of diesel. At the beginning of the year, we're doing diesel 700, 720. Today, diesel is going for 1050, 1050 naira, depending on where you are sourcing. You know, and it's a major requirement for us because as bakers, it's a country where light, you don't have electricity, public energy or whatever. So either you are generating yourself, using diesel to power your gen sets, you're using diesel to power your burners that bakes the bread in the oven. Okay, you use diesel to power your trucks. In my company, for instance, we used to have about 10 trucks, but now because of the economic situation, we have 6. Because if you go about distributing this bread to your distributors, if you remain in your bakery, nobody comes because there is a proliferation of bakery all across the country. Everybody thinks that bakery is a cash cow. Some people come into bakery and go into it blindly. And when they get into it, it becomes a vortex for them and they begin to cry. You know, not knowing that it's a very, very serious business. People will just tell you, go do bread, go do bread. You don't know that there are technicalities involved in doing bread. There are so many things involved in doing bread. You have to know your count. You have to know your costing. It's not just jump in, because if you jump in, you jump out. So that is it.
Talking about energy, you know, at this time, I've not had light in my house for a couple of days.
Yeah, we've not had it for 3 days now in my place. I think they said Egbe is under 2 days now. We've not had light in my area. In my bakery, I think about 2 days now we've not had we've not had light. And so for most of our members, even for those of you those of us that are lucky to be having the lights, it's so expensive. You know, people pay up to 2-3 million as a monthly bill. My members. You understand? Small businesses, I mean, bakery is a minor, small business. No matter the scale you want to place it on, it's a small business. Yes, there could be so many scattered across the country and all that, but it's still a small business.
But looking at the rising cost of most of your inputs now, it seems everything still comes to the currency exchange. Forex, dollars, you know, at this point. That is the major
it's a killer
issue that's hitting your industry.
It is.
You know, at this time. So it looks like if we can get some stability, you know, when it comes to the Forex market, the Naira, you know, strengthens, that would make imports cheaper.
It will. It will. And not only that, it makes imports cheaper, but at the end of the day, too, you must be working in country to see how you can domesticate these things, to ensure that these things are produced in country. You cannot be shipping out jobs, for crying out loud. For everything you import into Nigeria, you are shipping out jobs to those countries. All right? How is it that we can't do basic things as ascorbic acid? How is it that we can't manufacture basic things as bread improvers? How is it that we cannot manufacture basic things as yeast? We can't even grow it in country, and yet the government is collecting 15% import development levy for every shipment of flour that comes into the country. That means for every bread you eat in Nigeria, 15% of it goes into that. All right? We've called on the government, remove this. Let us place a moratorium on, let the government, the federal government, I'm talking about the federal government, place a moratorium on with importation levy for now, because the situation is critical for businesses. Place a moratorium on it, maybe 2-3 years, so that there can be some stability in that space. Once there is a stability, then there is going to be some kind of excess funds, monitor the millers, and ensure that this thing cascades to the
wheat levy,
to the manufacturers.
Those funds are supposed to be used to develop.
Yeah, they are meant to be used to develop wheat, but it's not being,
production.
Yes, it's not being used to do that. It's not being. 15 states can grow wheat in Nigeria, in the northern part of this country. 15 of them. Okay, we do in Nigeria. We do our wheat requirement is 5.7 million metric tons every year. Actual consumption is about 5.12 million metric tons. But Nigeria cannot produce 300,000 metric tons. So you look at the gap between 5.12 and 300,000 at the most that they've been able to do. And this is a country that can do well over that. In sub-Saharan Africa, Nigeria is the second largest consumer of wheat flour or wheat-based products outside Ethiopia. So it's a veritable market to ensure for job creation for the growers and then for the feed industries, you understand? Because about 90% of it is used for flour for making bread, and then you have for pasta, you have for the shafts that you use for the poultry industry and all of that. So the government must work seriously. Former President Jonathan initiated the idea. I think it was in June in 2012. Yeah, if my memory gets me right. That it was supposed to be a stopgap, that's the wheat development levy. But every government that has come in since between then and now, okay, has been using that money. I don't know what they use it for. It is domiciled in the
So your industry is not benefiting.
We are not benefiting from it. You know, the last time, there was even the time that President Tinubu traveled to Onga, to our consternation as an industry. They pulled out 500,000 from that money for the Onga trip. It was there everywhere. It was there all over. When that memo leaked, we saw it there, and we were aghast. Why using the money? Why not use that money to grow the industry? Why use it for hunger? Why the presidency using the money? Can't they source the money from their own subheads? You know, so it's a very tough one as an industry. My members' businesses are going next thing, and the more you drag people into poverty, the more you exacerbate insecurity in the country. Nigeria is contending with insecurity across the 6 geopolitical zone. Don't miss words about it. It's across the 6 geopolitical zone. Banditry, whatever name you want to give it, banditry, unknown gunmen, known gunmen, or whatever, non-state actors everywhere. Then you are pulling people into poverty every day when the bakeries are going under, throwing them into poverty.
But looking at the cost now from January to December, that's the cost of buying a loaf of bread. Talk to me, paint a picture. What's demand like, at these prices?
That's what I've told you. I said 70% has dropped. For instance, if you were doing 100, for instance, if you're doing 15,000 loaves of bread a day, today, if you are doing 3,000, you thank your star. That's what I'm saying. It has dropped by 70%. Capacity has dropped drastically for every bakery. I'm telling you the truth. And what has led to that drop? It's because there is no money in people's pocket.
So at the end of the people...
If I may ask you a question,
right.
When was the last time they gave you a pay rise?
Wow.
If I may ask you, let's pack it off here.
We know wage rates. That's another issue.
For me,
when it comes to currency devaluation and inflation, most of the time we know that it's the workers that suffer. And at the end of the day, we're seeing Nigerians now, their incomes are squeezed. Disposable income is squeezed from every side. At this point. But going into 2024, what would you like to see to help this industry so that Nigerians can actually afford bread?
What we can like to see is the first thing first, government should place a moratorium on wheat import levies. Don't collect that levy. It's not everything that is about revenue generation. The government is so fixated. You are going to FAC and you are sharing 1.something trillion. Subnationals are getting richer, the governors are getting richer. Does it cascade to Nigerians? No. The local government, who holds them accountable and responsible? No. In everything, it is politics. Nobody cares about the average Nigerian. Nobody cares about the suffering Nigerian. And it's a recipe for disaster if we are not careful. People are pent up. And the picture we are painting in 2004 is going to look, the horizon is not looking good. I just told you something about what the CBN, what they just raised. $1 to 855 for clearing of
the managed float.
Okay? Now, you said you deregulated. It's 9.55. That means 15 to 20% already. A problem for industries. You understand? So the government must look at those things and fix a particular rate. The I&E windows, they are saying I&Es. Most people still source their money from the parallel market. Does the bank give you? The bank doesn't even give. Do they give? You are a business reporter. Do your in-depth analysis and do your investigations. Do they give the manufacturers? Because we asked them, we interface with them. You were in our program when we did the day out, and you know we got all the stakeholders into a one-stop shop where we discussed about the industry. We try to find out from them. It's a situation of, it's a bad one for each and every one of them. So what is happening to the FX? Is it round tripping they are doing with it? Who does the bank give the money to? And it kind of a dollarized economy. Why are we not managing our FX? Why deregulate it?
And it doesn't help that we import
almost virtually everything.
Everything. All
basically,
your inputs are imported.
Yeah.
How's your association looking at, sourcing within?
Well,
what kind of conversations?
That's why we are begging the federal government. We are appealing to them to ensure that some of these things are domesticated in country. Let us use the money we have that they've collected from the 15% wheat development levy. Use it to pursue aggressive wheat development. There is a wheat research institute somewhere in Jigawa State. Partner with IITA, get the hybrid of seedlings or the wheat that you need to grow. Our own wheat here grows in the dry season. You understand? This between November, I think, and March, that's when they grow it. That is the window. So be aggressive about it. Increase your cultivation per hectare. Okay, there is land, there is arable land in the north, in these 15 states. Ensure you increase, encourage them, get extension services to them, do that, and then show up gradually. Give yourself maybe a 5 years plan, medium, short, and long-term projections. Look at that in this year, maybe in 2000, we expect to get from the 300,000 metric tons we are doing a year. Let's go to graduate to by 500. By the year 2030, we should be hitting 1 million. Okay, then you know that you have a plan in place. The same thing for the backward integration for sugar. They say backward integration, but our sugar, the raw sugar still comes from Brazil, 90% from Brazil, 3.3% from Turkey. So do these things. There's a Basita in Nasarawa State or somewhere. These sugar refiners, okay, you know them, the two big boys. They have their farms, grow the sugar cane here, ensure that this thing is domesticated in country, have a plan for it too. It's not enough saying I'm doing backward integration, but you are still dependent on importation from Brazil. What you do here is to infuse vitamins A and all that into the and then begin to sell to Nigeria. And most critically, we must move away from this dollarization of Nigeria's economy. It's not helping our industry. Bread is a staple. Bread is a grab and go for every Nigerian. Bread is that thing that everybody can eat with anything in Nigeria. Bread is the most consumed food in Nigeria. Don't get me. Bread is it. After bread, maybe rice and then swallow. Right. So if people can no longer afford bread, it becomes a problem.
We've seen what that has done in other countries.
Yeah.
When the masses cannot afford bread. But definitely, we're hoping that going into 2024 we can solve all of these issues, get the FX market stabilized, and hopefully we don't have to import every input that goes into your industry. Thank you so much for coming on, because we always pray for our daily bread.
Yeah.
But when you get your daily bread, can you afford it?
My brother,
it's
crazy.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on and breaking it down for us, Mr. Honora Emmanuel, President, Premium Bread Makers Association of Nigeria.
Thank you, Ladi, for having me. Thank you, Nigerians. Let's keep hope alive.
Yeah, keeping hope alive, definitely. Next week, Christmas. Thank you so much. So, after the break now, FX commodities market update. That's next. Do stay with us. This is Business Morning. All right, for AFEX commodities market update now, let's get a summary of how the market traded for the week ended last week. In the last trading week, we saw there was mixed performances across key indicators. Turnover, that rose by 1.13%, closing the week at 2.43 billion naira, and from 2.23 billion the last trading week. While volume of trades, we saw a decrease of 1.16%. Number of deals, that rose by 1.05%, closing the week at 175 from 116 points in the previous trading week. There was also, for the FX commodities index, there was a rise by 0.25%, while the FX export index rose by 0.92% from close of 236.17 points from 234 points. The volume of contracts traded now, we saw an increase in volume across sorghum and paddy rice. While for price across export commodities, there was mixed performance, with paddy rice rising by 18.18%. It closed at 520 naira. Soybean rose by 7.62% to close at 408 naira 95 kobo. This week, we saw sesame, ginger, and wheat maintained at 1,240 naira, 990 naira, and 440 naira, respectively. On the other hand, for cocoa, we see there was a drop by 1.91%, closed at 4,202 naira, 29 kobo. Cashew nuts dropped by 0.32%, closed at 630 naira, and sorghum that dropped by 10.54% to close at 380 naira. Across grain commodities now, maize saw an increase of 12.60% and closed at 395 naira, 51 kobo per kilogram. So that's a summary of performance there. Visit africaexchange.com for more details. Also follow AFEX on the social media platforms at AFEX Nigeria and at ComX by AFEX. All right, taking the conversation forward now, see farmer cooperatives have been said to be an essential part of the agricultural ecosystem built to create access to resources for farmers who singularly are excluded from accessing these resources, with more calls to create a sustainable, resilient agricultural sector. Now we're going to explore the role of cooperatives as a catalyst for this much-needed development. Joining us now for this conversation is Kazeem Adeni, Area Sales Manager at AFEX. Good to have you on the show. Good morning. So talk to us about the role of cooperatives, in bridging the financing gap in the agricultural sector. I don't know if you can hear me, Kazeem. Can you hear me, Kazeem? You might have to unmute, Kazeem. I can't, I see your mouth moving, but I can't hear what you're saying. You might have to unmute. Okay, well, we're still going to try and get Kazeem back, but looking at our farmers at this point, financing definitely is a big issue at this point, and we have Kazeem to help us break that, how the cooperatives are helping, bridge this gap. Kazeem, I don't know if you can hear me now.
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning. Fantastic. So, paint a picture for us about the role of cooperatives in bridging this financing gap, because at this time, we know farmers are still finding the fight quite difficult to access finance.
Thank you very much for having me. Farmer cooperatives are a group of individual smallholder farmers who come together to leverage on each other's strengths and to tackle the challenges they have. These cooperatives are formed, could be formed based on the type of crop they produce, their location, their age group, or their gender. And these cooperatives, like I mentioned earlier, they leverage on each other's strengths, and they are able to, pool resources. They pool resources together, and they are able to access finances both from public and private sector. And of course, most of the time, individual farmers, smallholder farmers are unable to do this on their own. But if they belong to a cooperative group, the cooperative can actually access some of these facilities to help them, to help them progress in their endeavors. And of course, the idea of the cooperative system is to ensure that no single farmer is left behind. Everybody, grows together, and of course, it also creates an avenue to improve the agricultural sector. Also, it also plays a very pivotal role in ensuring financial inclusion for smallholder farmers. And of course, this also helps us improve the sustainability and the continuity of food production in the country and beyond.
And how do farmer cooperatives, contribute to the overall resilience of the agricultural value chain, at this point, looking at issues of climate change and economic instability?
All right. So on the issue of climate change, like I mentioned earlier, these cooperative bodies, they leverage on each other's strengths. It's an avenue to to share knowledge about climate smart adaptation techniques to combat the effects of climate change. Also, it's also an avenue to to pull resources from their collective purse to also get infrastructure and technologies to combat the challenges. For example, a cooperative body can easily set up an irrigation system to cater for a community during the dry season. Also, they can also go as far as create building storage facilities and all of that. On the issue on the part of economic instability, cooperative bodies have a better leverage when it comes to bargaining prices. They are able to bargain better prices because of the volume they will be producing. Since it's not just an individual's effort, it's a collective effort. So this also helps to project them as more a structured body, a serious body who actually has a large volume of production coming from their region, and this of course helps them to increase their profitability on the side of the economic aspect. Also, as regards climate change, they are not really affected by the climate change, since they are open to knowledge sharing. They are able to get facilitators to train them on novel ideas to apply on their farms. So overall, this cooperative body have a pivotal role to help these farmers combat the challenges of climate change and also the economic instability. They are able to make more money and of course better their livelihood.
Yeah, it's always quite powerful when everyone comes together for the same cause. But what is the place of stakeholders like AFEX, private and public stakeholders in creating and incentivizing stronger cooperative structures for most of these farmers?
All right, thank you. I'll start by we at AFEX. What we have been doing over time is to ensure that every single farmer on our network belong to a cooperative body, number one. Secondly, through this cooperative body, they are able to access several benefits, which ranges from input loan, seedling, training. They also have access to markets, access to storage facilities, and what have you. So this cooperative body, we have a lot of them on our own network who we work with directly, and of course we are also encouraging other private stakeholders to try to key into this to ensure that they try to reach out to farmers through a cooperative body. It's much easier to get, say, let's say 5 leaders of cooperative bodies to disseminate information to them, to also take it back to their own to their members, than say you want to convert 1,000 farmers and start training them and all of you. It's a bit cumbersome that way. But if we have representatives who actually belong to these groups, it's easier to disseminate this information. Also, on the part of government has a lot to do. And number one is about making it much seamless and easier for these farmers to come together and create a structured cooperative body. When I say structured, I mean registering with CAC and other bodies involved. And of course, government also has a role to play in ensuring that there are grants available and easily accessible by this cooperative body, to continue to foster their works. And overall, we'll definitely see an improvement in, one, the productivity, secondly, betterment of the livelihood of smallholder farmers, and this ultimately leads to a great reduction in food insecurity we have at the moment.
Yeah, definitely a lot to unpack there, and hopefully these cooperatives get even stronger going forward, and I'm sure they can also give some really good cheap loans, definitely, that these farmers actually need. Thank you so much for coming on, Kazeem Adeni, Area Sales Manager at AFEX. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right. All right, now let's head to other markets, and we have Willie Bong to give us the details right here on This Morning. Great to have you Will, so it's looking like the Naira strengthened yesterday.
Yes, I was going to just come up with that.
Right.
It's good news to start off the day, you know, that trickles to the next day. Hopefully the green continues because we don't like the red.
Yeah.
So we saw that strengthening by 5.2%. That's a huge one yesterday at the NAFEM window to 844.85, 844 naira 85 kobo against the dollar. We just hope that, you know, this volatility we see in that segment doesn't continue.
Yeah, we need some
and then we need some
stability
there.
Continuous strengthening.
Yes, continuous strengthening of the naira. And maybe possibly hit that 750, that, you know, that ambitious 750 naira to a dollar that, you know,
it's quite incredible. I cannot believe that $1,000 gives you about 1.2 million.
It's incredible, and it's not something to actually. I remember when $1,000 used to be about 130,000 naira.
Exactly.
It's more like, yeah, that's a fair equivalent. But right now,
yes.
1 point something million, not
crazy
a great
times.
one. It's crazy, especially for investors.
Yeah.
So we see the bond. We're just going to kick off now with the bond market. It closed on a bullish note. That means yields are still dropping in that segment. Average yield contracted by about 5 basis points to 14.4%. We've seen across the segment. The average yield contracted at the short end, at the mid and the long segments, as investors demanded the 2029 paper, the April 2029 paper, and the March 2035, as well as the June 2033 papers. Now we look at the NTB, that's the Treasury bills market. Let's look at that very quickly. It's also traded with mixed sentiment, but a bit of, you know, a bearish undertone, meaning that we saw yields rise a little bit in that segment. We saw it on an average rise by about 1 basis point to 8.3%. And across the curve, we saw it changed at the short end and the mid segment, but it rose at the long end of that curve as investors sold up to 233-day to maturity paper. Elsewhere at the almost segment, we saw average yield declining by 154 basis points to 11.4%, and that's in the almost segment. But we're bringing in right now Vincent Oshoma is the chief dealer and head of capital markets, Interstate Securities Limited. Good morning, Vincent. It's good to have you.
Good morning.
Vincent, let's just kick off with the liquidity in the system. I think that's apparently affecting the yields in that space. We see overnight lending rates expanding, rising by 50 basis points to 22.6%. That's as at yesterday. And this is in the absence of any significant outflows from the system. What's going on there?
Yeah, I think that, like you mentioned, we have seen increase in yield for the overnight rate. I think it has to do with some level of liquidity in the bank as we approach the year. I think that's why you can see some increase. We saw that last year. I think it has to do with also the auction that took place last week. I think we saw that increase in liquidity from last week, and that has been the level. It has been on that level for this week because we don't see the only. We only see that we only expect some payments of coupon this week, so there's no real liquidity expected in the system this week. I think that's why it has maintained that levels.
Okay, so we also say in the this week the DG of the DMO, that's the Debt Management Office, Mrs. Patience Unia, saying that the government's overall public debt has hit about 87.38 trillion naira at the end of the second quarter, and domestic borrowing accounting for over 54 trillion naira, the total amount. The government is also saying that they're optimistic that they're able to manage their debt and also keep investors' confidence going. Do you share this optimism?
Yeah, if you look at it, there has been some level. They have been able to manage it relatively. And we can account for the factors that have led to this increase in debt, in the debt levels. First of all, remember the ways and means that was securitized, about 23 trillion naira, that was securitized, 22 trillion naira that was securitized. That led to a major increase, almost double the domestic debt. And also, if you look at it this year, there have been an increase. You talked about that level of borrowing, domestic borrowing has risen to about 7.something trillion. Compared to last year of 3.something trillion. You can explain that with the fact that, you know, last year they got some level of support from the CBN with respect to the ways and means, but this year that's not an area that have been the major source of funding for them. And also we have also seen some level of increase in revenue, though that will not really account for everything. So there have to be an increase in the domestic level, especially considering the fact that we know that with the current situation, high inflation and current global situation, Nigeria have not been able to access the foreign debt markets, and it's not an area of interest for them. So I think the domestic market is their major area of focus to raise the money that they require to fund the budget. And to a great extent, the market has been responding well to such offers, because when you look at the sukuk that was offered, it was oversubscribed to a very great extent. And also most of the Treasury bill auction, you have seen some level of oversubscription, because there's some level of liquidity that needs to be placed in those investments in the system.
Okay, just very quickly, we mentioned oversubscription. We've been seeing that especially investors have been eyeing the 30-year bond paper, that's the 2053 bond paper. What are current yields like for that paper or that segment?
Yeah, with the current, I think people are trying to lock in their investment with respect to yields. Recently we saw increase in yields both in the money market, the treasury bills, and also for the bond market. So with this current environment, knowing fully that it will not always be this situation, so people are trying to lock in. And we have seen that the long-dated instruments, we have seen increase in yields in those instruments. So I think investors are trying to lock in yields for those long-dated instruments. Especially when we start seeing a moderation in inflation, definitely we should see yields coming down, especially as we get into next year.
Thank you so much, Vincent Oshoma, Chief Dealer and Head of Capital Markets, Interstate Securities Limited, for sharing your perspective on Business Morning.
Thanks for having me.
So we're seeing that equities market yesterday, Ladi, it's closed in the green. I thought it was going to tilt to the negative because of what we saw the previous session. But, the market seems to surprise us. But it was still slightly up. But we can't tell what will happen today. But fingers crossed, we'll still maintain this bullish momentum.
I'm just waiting for that Santa rally. Definitely waiting for it. Let's see if it happens. Thank you so much, Will, there from Details, giving us the details and the fixed income and the equities market. Let's get a check on what's happening in the UK now. We have Juliana join us from our London studio. We have some good news, some good data coming out from the UK. Great to have you, Juliana. So we're seeing inflation numbers for November. It's 3.9%, lower than expected.
It's been a really tough couple of weeks for Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, particularly yesterday when he had a 90-minute grilling at the liaison committee. But I do think the data released by the Office for National Statistics this morning is certainly an early Christmas present or an early victory for the Prime Minister, because he did pledge at the beginning of the year that he would halve inflation from pretty high double digits, and he has done just that. In fact, he did it earlier in the year, but I think everybody's quite shocked this morning that inflation for November has come in at 3.9%. That is well below economists' forecast. They were expecting CPI to be about 4.3%. It was 4.6% in October. 3.9%. So that's a massive victory for him. There are many reasons why prices have come down. I think we saw decreases in transport, recreation, culture, food, and most importantly, the cost of raw materials and petrol. So yes, this is good, because of course we know the cost of living has really hit home for so many households in the UK. This has led to severe industrial action across various sectors. In fact, even today, we still are seeing strike action from junior doctors who are not crossing the picket line to work because they want to see an increase in their pay. So yes, this is a really good thing. It's been over 2 years. You have to go back to September 2021 to see CPI at this level. So yes, very, very good news. We just hope it starts trickling down to the shops, because things are still very, very expensive.
Yeah, definitely. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak looking like he's going to have a good Christmas, hitting, those targets at this time. But is there any chatter about how this will impact rates going into 2024 and the sterling?
Well, yeah, you know, rates is obviously the main one. We are going to see what the final interest rate cut of the year is going to be when the Bank of England Monetary Policy Committee meet tomorrow. Very, very important. Of course, we've already seen, you know, the mood music in Europe and in America. But of course, we know that, you know, interest rates have been particularly high, and it's only affecting those who have high loans. So it's really been a burden for mortgage holders in the UK. In fact, hundreds of thousands of people have been defaulting on their mortgages because they just simply cannot afford it. I think before today's data, lots of people were saying, is it too early to talk about the Bank of England cutting interest rates? But no, we can see it's not. You know, we need to start having this discussion so borrowing can be more appeasing to those who have very high loans. The Bank of England, as I said, are going to be meeting tomorrow. They do have a benchmark rate for inflation in this country, which is 2%. So 3.9% is just under double. Obviously not where we should be, but if you look back at where we were this time last year, it's gone leaps and bounds. So as I said, I think the Chancellor of the Exchequer and the Prime Minister are going to be celebrating Christmas much earlier. But let's just see. We have to wait and see. It's all a wait and see game. I think interest rates are at 5.25%. They've been held that way for 3 successive meetings, likely to remain at 5.25%. But certainly in the year, I think we are going to be seeing a lowering of rates like we've seen in other G7 economies.
Yeah, at some point, everyone's looking out for what the central bankers are going to do in 2024. And I'll be looking out for how the markets in UK react to this later on Business Incorporated. Thank you so much, Juliana.
Thanks, Ladi. Thank you.
All right, now let's take a look at other markets now. Definitely, we see Bitcoin did gain pace above the 42,000 level. If we look at the board, we see some green on the screen, but there are big pockets of red at the same time. See Ethereum there, not looking so good. 1.19% there. We're seeing DOT, Dogecoin, the king of the meme coins, also in the red this morning. So the big pockets of red almost split in half, green to red at this point. Let's look at the sentiment in the market right now. We still see it's a greedy market. Looking at fear greed index, 74 points over 100, showing the traders are still quite bullish at this time and greedy in this market. Let's look at the top cryptocurrencies we track now. This morning, we see Bitcoin there at 8 a.m., 42,985. Just a marginal rise we're seeing this morning, 0.02%. We're seeing Ethereum down, but BNB managing to hold that $250 level. 3.54%, going a different direction than what we see with the top 100 coins that we track on CoinMarketCap. Cardano losing the 60 cent level, 3.99%, about 4% down. XRP, 60 cents, looking quite stable at this point. Not much wild swings there we're seeing with XRP. And if we look at the top gainers counter now, let's see who's topping that counter. We see Near Protocol is topping the counter. Double-digit gain, 18.88%, $2.75, and a couple of other top coins we track, like Rose and Mina Protocol at this time. Let's bring in Solomon Amunde now, financial market analyst. Hello, Solomon. Good morning.
Good morning, Ladi.
So we're seeing a new trend now in the market. It's inscriptions. Almost every blockchain now, from Bitcoin to Solana, Aptos, Near Protocol, Atom, almost all of them have inscriptions now. Tell us about inscriptions and why it's becoming a thing with these blockchains.
So it's basically a hype that was actually started from the Bitcoin blockchain, where they dropped the BRC20 tokens and people were going to the blockchain to inscribe and also inscribe NFTs and also mint tokens. And this gave the Bitcoin ecosystem the capacity to be able to execute DeFi form applications. And obviously, other ecosystems saw the fact that this was making its way into the Bitcoin ecosystem, and they had lots of transaction volume and people made lots of returns. So we started seeing that happening from like the month of September, October in other blockchains. And this month, it's been like a pandemic. Almost every blockchain now wants to inscribe one thing or the other just to get that traction and also to generate transaction volume.
Right. And looking at some of the inscription projects now, we've seen some of them do pretty well. Is this just hype or a tech that's going to stay long in this market?
For Bitcoin, I feel it will stand the test of time. For other blockchains, I can't say the same thing because other blockchains, they have smart contract compatibilities and they are built for that. But for Bitcoin, it's more like it gives it the ability to be able to have smart contracts running and also for us to be able to create DeFi applications. So it makes sense having inscriptions on Bitcoin. But for other blockchains, I really don't see the use case. It's just euphoria and hype for me.
Yeah, and how do you advise traders to trade this whole inscription hype at this point?
Yeah, basically, there's lots of FOMO out there right now. The hype is at its all-time high, just like the NFTs hype in 2021. So I would say this is the best time for you to get in, make good money, take advantage of it, make 200, 300, 1,000%, depending, but don't try to hold any of the bags of the inscription projects. It's best to take your profit out and also take out your capital because most of the projects we see right now, within the next 6 months, they'll be down by at least 90%.
And going into 2024, what do you think? Because some traders definitely have made good profit, this year in 2023. Is it time to take profit off the table?
Yeah, great traders right now, they are at least 30% out of the market, while they still have 70% in the market. I feel Bitcoin is still going to hold till like January. Then I expect most traders to start pulling out of the market towards the end of January, moving into February 2024. So I expect us to see another bear market next year after we see a massive correction from Bitcoin. Probably in the second quarter of next year, we should experience a reasonable bear market before we start seeing any upward movements afterwards.
Yeah, because it's quite painful when investors make all of that profit, while Mr. Market takes it all back when the bear market comes on. Thank you so much, Solomon Amunde.
Thank you very much, Larry.
All right, so that's how most markets we track right here are looking. It's a wrap on the program. Don't forget to join us at 1:30 on Business Incorporated for more updates and developments in the world of business. Also visit our website, www.channelstv.com for more updates. Thank you for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. And remember, if you must take profit, find the top.